The transport ship slowed as it approached Station Helix 7. Through the small window, watched the massive structure grow larger. It looked like a metal flower floating in space, its petals spreading outward into the darkness. Somewhere inside that station, her new life waited for her. She was 22 years old, small for a human, and quiet in a way that made people forget she was in the room. Her black hair was tied back in a simple knot. Her uniform was clean but not new. She carried one bag with everything she owned. The other passengers on the transport were not human. A group of warriors sat in the front, their 4 arms crossed over their massive chests. They stood over 8 feet tall, with gray skin and eyes like burning coals. They had not looked at once during the entire journey. She was beneath their notice. Behind her, 2 traders whispered to each other in clicking sounds. They were small creatures with hard shells like beetles, known across the galaxy for their peaceful nature and their talent for mathematics. One of them had smiled at when she boarded. She had smiled back. The transport docked with a heavy thud, stood, grabbed her bag and walked toward the exit. As she passed one of them finally looked at her, his lips pulled back to show rows of sharp teeth. "They let dirt crawlers into the academy now," he said to his companions. "The standards have truly fallen." The other laughed, kept walking. She did not look back. The academy registration hall was enormous. Hundreds of cadets from dozens of species moved through the space, their voices creating a constant noise that echoed off the high ceiling. Found the human registration desk easily. It was the smallest one, tucked away in a corner. A tired-looking human officer sat behind it. "Name?" he asked without looking up. "Cadet." He typed something into his screen. His eyebrows rose slightly. "Commander's daughter." His chest tightened at the mention of her father's name. "Yes." The officer finally looked at her. His eyes held something like sympathy. "Your father was a good man, one of the best officers I ever served under." He handed her a data card. "Barracks 17. Orientation starts in 1 hour in the main hall." Took the card, "Thank you." She turned to leave, but the officer spoke again. "Cadet," she stopped. "Barracks 17 is not a good assignment. I don't know who arranged it, but someone wants to make your time here difficult. Watch your back." Nodded once and walked away. Barracks 17 was located in the lowest level of the station, far from the main training facilities. The hallway leading to it was dim, and the air smelled stale. When entered, she found a long room with 20 beds arranged in 2 rows. Most of them were empty. Only 3 other cadets were present. One was a small and nervous-looking, sitting on a bed in the corner. The second was a creature did not recognize, with pale blue skin and no visible eyes. The third was another human, a young man with dark circles under his eyes who lay on his bed staring at the ceiling. Chose a bed near the. As she set down her bag, the small alien looked up at her with large, compound eyes. "You are human," it said. Its voice was soft and musical. "Yes, I am," the extended one of its thin arms in a gesture recognized as a greeting. "I have never met a human before. Your species is very new to the coalition." "We are," agreed. She sat on her bed. "Is this barracks as bad as they say?" Made a sound that might have been a sigh. "They call it the pit. Cadets who are sent here are meant to fail. The academy does not expect us to graduate. We are here to fill a number, nothing more." Looked around the dim room. The walls were marked with old scratches and stains. The lighting flickered every few seconds. "Then we will have to prove them wrong." Stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly made a clicking sound that realized was laughter. "I like you, human. You have strange ideas." The orientation ceremony took place in the main hall, a vast circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central stage, and sat together in the back, surrounded by empty seats. No one wanted to sit near them. The academy master was ancient and with one arm missing below the elbow. He spoke of honor, of duty, of the great tradition of the Galactic Military Academy, listened carefully to every word. Then he announced the Crucible trials. "Every cadet will be tested," the Academy Master said. "Your performance in the Crucible will determine your ranking for your entire time at this academy. Those who excel will be given the best assignments, the best training, the best futures. Those who fail—" he paused. "Those who fail will wish they had never come." A murmur ran through the crowd, felt trembling beside her. After the ceremony, walked back to Barracks 17 alone. Had gone to the library to research the Crucible. The hallways were mostly empty now, the other cadets having returned to their own barracks. She was halfway to her destination when she noticed something strange. Her file on the Academy system had been accessed 4 times in the past week, each time by someone with administrator credentials. Someone had changed her barracks assignment from Barracks 3 to Barracks 17. Someone had removed her name from the advanced training list. Someone had flagged her record with a note that simply said, "Monitor closely." Stood in the empty hallway, staring at her data card. Her father had died fighting for humanity's place among the stars. He had believed that humans deserved to stand beside the other species of the galaxy, not beneath them. Someone in this academy disagreed. Someone wanted her to fail. Put the data card in her pocket and continued walking. Her steps were steady. Her face showed nothing. Let them try, she thought. Let them all try. 3 weeks passed at the academy, learned many things. She learned that humans needed twice as much sleep as but could run 3 times longer without rest. She learned that the gravity on Station Helix 7 was set to favor larger species, making every step feel heavier than it should. She learned that her equipment had a strange habit of breaking at the worst possible moments. During a climbing exercise, her rope snapped. During a shooting test, her weapon jammed. During a team navigation drill, her assigned partner simply walked away and left her alone in a maze of tunnels 2 kilometers beneath the station's surface. She finished the drill anyway, arriving at the exit point 4 hours after everyone else. The instructor, a named Kel, watched her emerge from the tunnels covered in dust and sweat. His expression gave nothing away, but he marked something on his before walking away. Despite the sabotage, scores in individual tests remained high. Her tactical simulations were nearly perfect. Her endurance ratings were among the best in her class. She never complained, never explained, never made excuses. She simply continued. This made certain people very angry. Was the crown prince of the empire. His family's money had built half of the station's training facilities. He stood 9 feet tall, with 4 arms thicker than his entire body and claws that could cut through metal. In 6 semesters at the academy, he had never lost a single combat match. His name was spoken with fear and respect by cadets from every species. He noticed for the first time during a mess hall dinner. The human cadet sat alone at a small table near the wall, eating her meal in silence. Usually sat with her but was sick that day, resting in the barracks. Did not mind being alone. She had grown used to it. Approached her table with 3 of his companions following close behind. The noise in the mess hall slowly died as other cadets noticed what was happening. By the time the prince reached table, the room was completely silent. "So this is the human," said. His voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. "The daughter of the dead hero." Continued eating. She did not look up. "I have watched your scores," continued. "Impressive for a species that only discovered space travel 2 centuries ago. Your people were still killing each other with chemical explosives while my ancestors were building empires across the galaxy." Took another bite of her food. Leaned closer. His shadow fell over her completely. "When we first encountered humans, we thought you were animals. Clever animals, perhaps, but animals nonetheless. Dirt crawlers trapped on a single planet, fighting over scraps of land. Gravity prisoners who could barely survive outside their own atmosphere." swallowed her food, and reached for her water. His upper right hand slammed down on the table, knocking the tray to the floor. Food scattered across the metal surface, some of it landing on his uniform. The mess hall remained frozen in silence. "Look at me when I speak to you, human." Looked up, her face was calm. Her eyes met his without fear, without anger, without anything at all. This seemed to disturb more than defiance would have. His 4 hands clenched into fists. "Pick it up," he growled. "Clean the floor. Show everyone what your species is truly meant for." Said nothing, she did not move. The silence stretched on. Companions shifted uncomfortably. Other cadets watched with wide eyes. Someone in the back of the room whispered something, but it was too quiet to hear. His claws extended slightly, their sharp points gleaming under the lights. I said, "I heard you." Her voice was quiet but clear. It carried through the silent mess hall like a stone dropping into still water. His eyes widened, then they narrowed, his upper lip pulled back to show his teeth. "You dare." "I dare nothing," stood slowly, brushing the food from her uniform. She was barely tall enough to reach the middle of his chest. "I simply choose not to do what you ask. That is my right as a cadet of this academy." For a moment it seemed like might strike her. His muscles tensed, his claws fully extended. The air itself seemed to grow heavier with the promise of violence. Then slowly he smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "You have courage, human, stupid courage, but courage nonetheless." He stepped back. "We will meet again in the crucible. I will make sure of it. And when we do, you will learn what happens to small creatures who forget their place in the natural order." He turned and walked away. His companions followed. The noise in the mess hall slowly returned, but could feel hundreds of eyes still watching her. She picked up her tray, gathered what food she could save, and sat back down to finish her meal. Later that night, found her in the barracks, staring out the small window at the stars. "I heard what happened," they said quietly. "Everyone is talking about it. They say you refused to bow to the prince. They say you looked at him without fear." "I was not without fear," admitted. "I simply did not show it." "Why?" His voice was genuinely curious. "He could have killed you. He is the prince. No one would have stopped him." Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft but steady. "On my planet we have wolves. They are hunters, predators. When a wolf meets a larger animal, it has 2 choices. It can run and be chased, or it can stand still and make the larger animal wonder what it knows that makes it unafraid. Considered this, and which choice is better? Neither is always right, but a wolf does not bark at every noise in the forest. It saves its energy for when it truly matters." The next morning, news spread through the academy like fire. Had petitioned the Academy Council. He had requested that his crucible match against the human cadet be classified as unrestricted contact. This meant that during their fight, he would be legally allowed to kill her. The council, after 3 hours of debate, approved his request. The betting pools opened across the station within hours of the council's decision. The odds against surviving her match were 200 to 1. Some betting houses refused to take wagers on her victory at all, claiming it would be theft to accept money for an impossible outcome. Heard the numbers and felt nothing. Numbers were just numbers. They could not hurt her. They could not help her. Only her own hands could do either. She began training in the empty hours of the night, when other cadets were sleeping. The academy had a small training room in the lower levels, forgotten and dusty, that no one used anymore. Cleaned it herself, pushing aside broken equipment and wiping decades of dirt from the floor. There, alone in the dim light, she practiced movements she had kept hidden since arriving at the academy. Her father had taught her a way of fighting that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. It was not about strength. It was not about speed. It was about understanding how bodies moved, where they were weak, how to use an enemy's power against them. Humans had developed these techniques over thousands of years, fighting opponents larger and stronger than themselves. They had refined the art of turning size into a disadvantage. Moved through the forms her father had shown her, locks that trapped joints at their breaking points, throws that used momentum to send opponents crashing to the ground, strikes to pressure points that could paralyze limbs or stop hearts. Her movements were smooth and precise, like water flowing around stones. She practiced for hours every night, until her muscles burned and her breath came in gasps. Then she returned to her barracks and slept for a few hours before the day's normal training began. Watched her with growing worry. "You are not sleeping enough," the said one morning. "Humans need rest. You will make yourself sick." "I will rest after the match," replied. "You might not survive the match." "Then I will rest forever," smiled slightly. "Either way, the problem solves itself." Did not find this funny. One night, as trained alone, the door to the forgotten training room opened. She spun around, hands raised, ready for anything. Instructor Kell stood in the doorway. The watched her with his burning eyes, his expression unreadable. "I am not here officially," he said. His voice was low and rough. "I cannot be seen helping you. Do you understand?" Lowered her hand slowly. "I understand." Kell stepped into the room and placed something on a broken table near the wall. It was "The prince has a weakness," he said. "An old injury to his lower left arm from a training accident years ago. The bone never healed correctly. Medical records are attached." He turned to leave. "Why?" asked. Kell paused at the door. "I have seen many cadets come through this academy. Most of them fight for glory, for power, for their family's honor." He glanced back at her over his shoulder. "You fight like someone who has nothing left to lose. That is the most dangerous kind of warrior." He left without another word. Picked up and began to study. 3 nights before the match, came to her with a proposal. "I can sabotage his equipment," the said. His voice was shaking, but his compound eyes were determined. "I am good with machines. I can make something fail at the right moment. His armor, his weapons, anything you need." Looked at her friend for a long moment. Had been the only one who stood by her since her arrival. The small, gentle alien had faced mockery and isolation for that friendship. Now he was offering to risk his entire future to help her. "No," she said softly. "But if I cheat, I prove them right about us." Placed her hand on his thin arm. "Humans are not supposed to be here. We are dirt crawlers, gravity prisoners, animals who learn to use tools. If I win by tricks and deception, every species in this galaxy will say that is how humans always win. They will never respect us. They will only fear us. Is respect worth dying for?" Smiled sadly. "My father thought so." The night before the match, sat alone in her barracks. Everyone else had left, either to watch other matches or to avoid being seen near the human who would soon be dead. Even had gone to the library, unable to bear the waiting. Beeped with an incoming transmission. The sender was marked as unknown, but the origin point was clear: Earth. She opened the message. Her father's face appeared on the screen. He looked younger in the recording, his hair still black, his eyes still bright with life. The timestamp showed the message had been recorded 15 years ago, when was only 7 years old. "My daughter," Commander said, "if you are watching this, then I am gone, and you have reached a moment where everything seems impossible. Your mother promised to send you this message when that moment came." His throat tightened. She had not heard her father's voice in 8 years. "I wish I could be there with you," he continued. "I wish I could teach you everything you need to know, but time is never on our side, so I will tell you the most important thing I ever learned." He leaned closer to the camera. "Our ancestors walked out of Africa with nothing but stones and sticks. They faced lions, bears, wolves, animals that could kill them with a single blow. By every measure, they should have died. They should have been forgotten, just another failed species in a universe that does not care. His eyes burned with intensity. But they did not die. They survived. They conquered. Do you know why? Waited, barely breathing. Because when a human decides something will happen, the universe learns to obey. We hunted animals larger than ourselves by following them until they collapsed from fear and exhaustion. We did not need to be faster. We did not need to be stronger. We simply needed to never stop. Commander smiled and saw her own smile reflected in his face. When they corner you, he said, when they think they have won, when every odd is against you and every voice tells you to surrender, that is when you show them what humans do to apex predators. He paused. We make them extinct. The recording ended. Sat in the darkness of her barracks, her father's words echoing in her mind. Tomorrow she would face a monster. Tomorrow she would show the galaxy what Earth had sent. The Crucible Arena was the heart of Station Helix 7. It sat at the center of the massive structure like a metal sun, surrounded by rings of seating that could hold 50,000 spectators. Today, every seat was filled. They had come to watch a human die. The arena floor was a simple circle, 200 meters across, with no cover and no obstacles. The rules of the match had been posted that morning. No weapons, no armor, unrestricted contact. The fight would continue until one fighter surrendered or could no longer continue. In an unrestricted match, could no longer continue usually meant death. Walked through the tunnel leading to the arena floor. The roar of the crowd grew louder with each step, a wall of sound that pressed against her from all sides. She wore simple training clothes, loose pants, a fitted shirt, bare feet. Her hair was tied back tightly. She carried nothing else. The tunnel opened into blinding light. Stepped onto the arena floor and the crowd's roar peaked, then began to change. Some cheered. Most laughed. A few fell silent, staring at the small human with confusion. She was so tiny. Walked to her starting position. There was a small bench there, standard equipment for fighters to rest between rounds in longer matches. She sat down on it, placed her hands on her knees, and looked across the arena at the opposite tunnel. The crowd's noise shifted again as emerged. The Prince of the Empire was a mountain of muscle and fury. He stood 9 feet tall, his gray skin stretched over 4 arms that bulged with power. His claws were extended, each one longer than his hand. His eyes burned like dying stars as he scanned the arena, drinking in the adoration of the crowd. He raised all 4 arms above his head and roared. The sound shook the arena. 50,000 voices roared back. Began walking toward the center of the arena. His steps were slow, confident, theatrical. He was not walking to a fight. He was walking to an execution. Remained seated. The prince reached the center of the arena and stopped. He stared across at the human, confusion flickering across his face. Why was she sitting? Was she frozen with fear? Had her courage finally failed? "Stand up, human," he called out. His voice echoed through the arena speakers. "Face your death with whatever dignity your species possesses." Did not move. The crowd began to murmur. Something was wrong. This was not how the script was supposed to go. The human should be trembling, crying, begging. She should not be sitting calmly on a bench as if waiting for a transport. His confusion turned to anger. He began walking toward her, his pace faster now. "I said stand up. I will not kill you while you cower like a—" A horn sounded. The match had officially begun. Charged. He covered the distance between them in seconds, his 4 legs propelling him forward with terrifying speed. His upper right arm drew back for a devastating overhead strike, claws extended to crush the human skull. Watched him come. She did not stand, she did not move. At the last possible moment, as killing blow descended, her hands moved. She caught his lower left wrist, the weak one, the injured one, and pulled. At the same time, she shifted her weight on the bench, redirecting his momentum using angles and leverage that seemed impossible. His own speed worked against him. His own strength became his enemy. His arm twisted at an angle it was never meant to bend. The sound of bone breaking echoed through the silent arena like a gunshot. Crack! Screamed. It was a sound that none of the 50,000 spectators had ever heard before. The Prince of the Empire, undefeated champion of the Academy, screaming in agony. His arm hung at a terrible angle, shattered at the old fracture point that had never properly healed. He collapsed to his knees beside his bench. His remaining 3 arms clutched at his ruined limb. His breath came in gasps of shock and pain. Had not risen from her seat. The arena was absolutely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. 50,000 beings stared at the impossible scene before them. A human girl sitting calmly on a bench while the galaxy's greatest warrior knelt at her feet, broken. Leaned close to. Her voice was quiet, but the arena's microphones picked up every word and broadcast them to the stunned crowd. "On my planet," she said, "we have a saying, the tallest trees catch the most wind." She released his wrist and stood up slowly. For the first time since entering the arena, she was on her feet. She looked down at the prince, then turned and began walking toward the exit tunnel. Behind her, struggled to breathe through his pain. Medical teams rushed onto the arena floor, their equipment ready for the expected human casualty, now completely unprepared for the actual situation. The crowd remained frozen. Then somewhere in the upper sections, someone began to clap. A single pair of hands, slow and deliberate. Looked up. In the private viewing box reserved for the delegation, the Emperor's father stood alone at the railing. He was ancient, his gray skin marked with the scars of 100 battles, his forearms still thick with muscle despite his age. He was the one clapping. As watched, the Emperor stopped and gave her a single, slow nod. His expression was unreadable, but there was something in his eyes that might have been respect. Or perhaps recognition. Returned the nod and continued walking. Behind her, the medics lifted onto a stretcher. His screams had faded to whimpers. His shattered arm was already swelling, the bone fragments visible through torn skin. The crowd finally found its voice. Some booed, some cheered, most simply talked, trying to understand what they had witnessed. A human had defeated the Prince of the Empire. A human had done it without standing up. Reached the tunnel and disappeared into the shadows. Her face showed nothing, no triumph, no relief, no satisfaction. She had done what needed to be done. She had proven what needed to be proven. Earth's children were not to be underestimated. Not now. Not ever again. The official ruling came 3 days after the match. Despite enormous pressure from certain members of the delegation, the Academy Council declared the winner. The match footage was too clear. She had won within the exact rules that himself had requested. Unrestricted contact, no weapons, no armor. He had asked for these conditions believing they would make it easier to kill a human. Instead, they had made it impossible for him to claim she had cheated. Life at the Academy changed after that day. Cadets who had once mocked now stepped aside when she walked through the corridors. Some nodded to her with respect. Others watched her with fear, unable to understand how something so small could be so dangerous. A few requested training sessions with her, wanting to learn the strange fighting techniques that had brought down the undefeatable prince. Accepted some of these requests. She taught what she could. Not everyone understood. Human fighting styles required patience and precision that many species found difficult, but some learned enough to improve their own techniques. Changed too. The small, once the most timid cadet in Barracks 17, now walked with his head held high. His friendship with the human who had defeated gave him a status he had never expected. Other cadets sought him out for advice. Instructors began to notice his talent for tactical analysis. By the end of the semester, He was leading the Academy's tactical planning division. His arm required 3 surgeries and months of recovery. His military career was not over, but his reputation as unbeatable was gone forever. The prince who had never known defeat now carried the memory of it in every movement, every twinge of pain from bones that would never be quite right again. Expected him to hate her. She prepared for revenge, for schemes, for the kind of bitter warfare that the powerful often waged against those who embarrassed them. Instead, something unexpected happened. 4 months after the match, approached her in the Academy gardens. He walked alone, without his usual group of followers. His lower left arm was still bound in a healing brace, held close to his body. Tensed, ready for anything. Stopped 3 meters away and performed a gesture she did not recognize. He placed his 3 working arms across his chest, palms open, and bowed his head. "What are you doing?" asked. "It is called the acknowledgement of truth," said. His voice was quieter than she remembered, stripped of its usual arrogance. "Among my people, it is given to an enemy who has proven themselves superior. It has not been given to a non in 400 years." He raised his head and met her eyes. "I was taught that humans were beneath us," he said. "I was taught that your species was a mistake, a joke of evolution, unworthy of standing beside the true warriors of the galaxy." He paused. "I was taught wrong." Was silent for a long moment. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to understand." His voice held genuine curiosity, not hostility. "You are smaller than me, weaker than me. You have 2 arms where I have 4. By every measure, I should have destroyed you in that arena. Instead, you broke me without even standing up. How?" Considered her answer carefully. "Humans evolved as hunters," she said finally. "Not the strongest hunters, not the fastest hunters. We could not outrun our prey and we could not overpower it. So we learned to outthink it. We learned to use its strength against it. We learned to be patient, to wait for the perfect moment, to turn every advantage into a weakness." She looked at him steadily. "You were bigger than me, that made you confident. You were faster than me, that made you careless. You expected me to fight like you, to meet strength with strength. So I did the one thing you could not predict. I did nothing. I waited. And when you committed to your attack, your own power became the weapon that broke you." Absorbed this in silence. Then slowly he nodded. "I have much to learn," he said. "We all do," replied. 2 weeks later, a summons arrived for. The Emperor of the Empire requested a private audience. Went alone. The Emperor's private chambers on the station were vast and filled with trophies from centuries of conquest. Weapons lined the walls. Flags of defeated enemies hung from the ceiling. And in the center of it all, the ancient sat on a simple chair, watching approach with those burning eyes. "You are not afraid," he observed. "I am always afraid," said. "I have simply learned not to show it." The Emperor smiled. It transformed his face into something almost kind. "I approved my son's request for an unrestricted match," he said. "Do you know why?" "No." "Because I wanted to see if humans deserved their place in the Galactic Coalition. For decades, your species has been on probation. Many believe you should remain there forever, monitored, controlled, never trusted with real power." He leaned forward. "I wanted to know if they were right." "And what did you learn?" "I learned that I have been fighting the wrong enemies." The Emperor stood, all 4 arms clasped behind his back. "Any species that produces warriors like you belongs at the table, not beneath it. Humans are not prey. You are predators wearing the skin of prey, the most dangerous kind." He extended one arm toward her, palm up. "I offer you a position in my personal guard. Upon graduation, you would serve directly under me, with rank and privilege beyond what any non has ever held. You would be the first human in the Emperor's shadow." It was an extraordinary offer. Understood its weight, not just for her but for all of humanity. Acceptance would mean protection, power, influence. She bowed respectfully. "I am honored," she said, "but I must decline." The Emperor's eyes narrowed, but he did not seem angry. "Why?" "I'm not here to serve empires," raised her head and met his gaze. "I am here to show them what Earth sends when it sends its best." The Emperor stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a deep, genuine sound that echoed off the trophy-covered walls. "Go then, human, show them." 6 months later, stood at the top of the Academy rankings. The girl from Barracks 17, from the pit, from the place where failures were sent to be forgotten, had risen higher than any human before her. A new transport ship arrived at the station that morning. It carried 30 human cadets, the largest group ever admitted to the Galactic Military Academy. They emerged into the registration hall looking nervous, uncertain, overwhelmed by the alien eyes watching their every move. Remembered that feeling. She remembered being alone, being mocked, being told she did not belong. She walked toward the group. The crowd parted for her automatically now, even the stepped aside. The new cadets looked up at her with wide eyes. Some recognized her face from the videos that had spread across the galaxy. The human who defeated the prince. The girl who broke a giant's arm without standing up. "Welcome to Station Helix 7, said. "You are going to be tested here. You are going to be challenged, pushed, and told that you do not belong. Some of you will want to give up. Some of you will want to go home." She paused, looking at each of their faces. "They will tell you that humans are too weak, too slow, too new to space. They will call you dirt crawlers and gravity prisoners and animals who learn to use tools." Her voice hardened. "Prove them wrong, the same way we always have." One of the cadets, a young man barely old enough to be away from home, raised his hand hesitantly. "How?" he asked. Smiled her father's smile, quiet and steady and full of patient strength. "By still being here when they are gone." She turned and walked toward the training grounds. After a moment, the 30 new cadets followed her, their steps growing more confident with each stride. Above them, through the station's transparent dome, Earth hung in the distance. It was small from this distance. Blue and white and green, a tiny marble floating in infinite darkness. It did not look like much. But then again, neither did its children. And the galaxy was learning, slowly and painfully, never to underestimate either.